Welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond. I'm your host, Ivotres Littles, and this is Shudderary, where we go behind the screams of Shudder original and exclusive movies.
Ooh.
Today, I have a really awesome special guest. He's an actor, writer. So let's welcome Johnny Berchtold.
Hey, hello. Thank you for having me to talk about horror.
Thank you for joining me
That was
on
good,
this.
by the way. That was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've been following you for a while, and I was like, I want to see if he wants to be a guest on Shudderary.
Also, I mean, I think the way that, because we have met in real life, the first time we met was probably in the most ideal setting. It was at Deb Meet James and Chelsea's wedding. We were at the same table. I mean, I don't think there's any. That's probably the most ideal for horror fans to meet in real life. Like that is probably like the picture perfect grounds for a relationship there. So, I mean,
do you remember what we were talking about? Oh, it was The Mask.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Well,
you
made Chelsea's Gabriel mask for Halloween, right? And I recognized you from that post, and I was like, oh my God, you did, because it was so good. It was incredible, and also, I mean, Malignant was so good. And so I was just very happy to see some Gabriel cosplay out there for Halloween, and you just knocked it out of the park. I was like, how did you even do this? It was so good. It was so good.
Very simple. And I said, well, not what I said, what it is. It was paper towels.
Like
and clay.
What?
Hey, so you get creative.
Yeah. You're creative and talented. Jeez.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about Shudder Original Movie Host. Host that really raised the bar on a lot of things about horror. Like you can make a horror movie to scare the crap out of people, and it doesn't have to be a huge budget, just a really good story and really, really good actors.
Also, I was going to say, right before we hopped on here, about 10 minutes before, I went on Instagram, and Jed Shepard posted that Host was voted for the second year in a row to be scientifically proven to be the scariest movie of all time, according to science. And I guess that has to do with the heart rate monitoring or something. And I get it, because the first time I watched this movie, I was soaking wet from sweat. It was just so good. It was so good. And I get it. Congrats to all of them.
Well, before we get into that, there will be spoilers. So I just had to throw that out there. We won't spoil it too bad, but there will be spoilers. It's been out for a while, so we'll probably spoil the heck out of it. But before we get into that part, again, tell a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, my name is Johnny. I am indeed an actor. I've been chasing that for quite some time now. I moved out to LA about 8 years ago, and I'm from New Jersey. And back in New Jersey is where my love of horror sort of grew. I was watching The Exorcist at a way too young of an age. I remember being allowed to rent the entire horror section at the video rental store. Rest in peace to those. And I just it was like this thing that was like, I'm not supposed to be watching this, and I need to watch it. And I also lived in the woods. So when I found the family video camera, I would start making little horror films and covering my family in blood. And luckily I stayed with that, because now basically the hobby of doing that has now manifested into a career for me.
Okay, so let's get into Host, one of the most, if not the popular since the pandemic, horror movies. From then on, it came out in 2020, and it just stayed at the top. No matter what movie has came out afterwards, it's still way up there. So it's about 6 friends that hire a medium to hold a seance via Zoom during lockdown, which is the pandemic for those. But they got well, oh my God, they went, well, it just went south from there.
No. I mean, that's it. Like, it's the most genius, quick, simple log line that is so effective. It's Zoom seance.
Yeah.
Of course. Like, why haven't we done that already? And
I think based on looking at it, and I rewatched it again, and I did interview Jed Shepard the first time to talk about this film, and I did this whole little thing for him. I had, like, as soon as he popped on to do the interview, I had, like, it was dark and I lit a candle.
Come on.
And he was,
I bet he loved that.
He was like, oh man, now I feel like I gotta do so. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Come on, Jed. Come on, Jed.
But that interview, I forgot he lived in the UK. So when it went live here, it was at 7. He was like, oh, it's just 3 a.m. I was like, oh my God, I completely I was like,
see, that's who Jed is. Like, he is down to do this all the time. Like, this is also his life. This is you can tell he's a passionate person. You can tell, like, watching Host, like, passionate people made that movie. And when you talk to him, he's just it's just pouring out of him. And so of course he'll do it at 3 a.m. He would probably tell you that there was no better time to do something like that.
He actually did say that, because he said, oh, I'm just getting up. I was like, what?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Exactly.
So basically these young ladies, and they decided to do that Zoom. Now, I really like how you are kind of one of the Zoom people watching it, because even your screen has Zoom. It has, you can see how them clicking on everybody, and you're there. The whole screen looks like you're part of it too.
Oh yeah, watching it on your computer is also a really interesting thing, because it really does seal the deal of, like, oh can we curse? Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh shit, I am part of this. If you ever find some time, check it out. I mean, that was, I think, back in 2014. So it is very funny to see them using Skype and, like, pretty outdated software in that movie. But it was a really interesting way of storytelling, because I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and obviously really big, and it was really cool, and you can see everything. But then the moment I watched it on my laptop, I was like, oh, wait, this is like an interactive film here, because now I'm part of the thing. So when Host came along at the start of the pandemic, and everyone was on Zoom, it made it that much more chilling, because you really are, like, we were all in this thing, everyone was on Zoom, and suddenly now here's this movie that's, like, just tearing that to shreds because everyone's dying on the Zoom call by a paranormal entity. So it was like, you really are sort of like part of that thing. It was so good.
Yeah. And there were some things that I did notice the third time I watched it. And even though I watched it the third time, I knew what was going to happen. It was like, oh, I know that's going to jump out. I still was like,
oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
I was like, damn it. It got me. And I knew it.
Because they're so effective.
Yeah. And it was like the whole time you're waiting. And I think one of the elements about it that makes it so terrifying is that it's using today's technology, which, you know, everybody during that time, and still using Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
It's everyday life. And also because we're so focused on each individual, like we're constantly moving our eye, and once one starts talking, we're focused. Once start talking, we're focused. And you can't see in the background. It's like, it's very dark back there. And then it's like you're waiting, you know, something's going to happen. It's just who and when, and that camera never changes. We will always see our perspective looking at them, no matter where they go. We're the ones going with them. It's our POV. the entire time. So we're always engaged into it. And also,
Yeah.
I noticed that all the ladies, their door is on our right side, but their left. Every one of them have their door except for Teddy, because Teddy goes in and out.
Right.
And then we have, what's her name? Salen. The reason her door is on that side because she's not even part of it.
Right.
So she kind of disappears, and he doesn't have a door because he doesn't stay very long. But all of them, I noticed, and I don't know if that's like an aesthetic thing or is it like,
I bet you
because it kept drawing my eye to that door.
Mm-hmm.
And because it would be the gateway to them leaving or something happening.
Right.
So it was warning us. There were lots of warnings and the order they were being attacked.
Oh, yeah. And can you believe, too, that they filmed this in quarantine? Like every one of those, the performers, everyone did it themselves.
Yeah.
Like they were alone in their apartments filming. I mean, obviously with the crew on Zoom with them, but I mean, it's so cool. And then when you watch the movie and you see all the effects that they pulled off, you're like, what? How? Who? You're all so talented. What are you doing? So, like, yeah, I wonder if that was a directing choice or if it, like, what?
You know that, they should keep certain things a secret, but it probably was like an aesthetic choice, because if we're looking at them and their doors are all over the place, you know, and also, where you put the camera, you can't break the, you can't break it.
True.
Yeah. You know.
Oh, yeah.
But I love the film. It's one of my top 20. It's still frightening. Like you said, they had a script, but then it was kind of improv, because obviously the director could only do so much because it was during the heart of the pandemic. It wasn't like just before.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was like you can't go nowhere.
I think this was this is the first movie, correct me if I'm wrong, to be made and released in the pandemic.
I
think it was.
So, yeah.
And also, I mean, with that just tells you that it was like at the beginning of quarantine when everything was super, super strict.
Yeah.
That like lockdown was like in full force. So to pull this off was inspiring, first of all. To see, I mean, just people, you know, that ache of you need to create something, or let's entertain in this. Obviously it's a horror movie, so we're not watching some happy whatever to take our mind off of it. But I mean, for a lot of us, that's what we would want anyway. And so, I mean, it was just so cool to be able to see people pull that off at the height of the worst. And in a very safe way.
I think it also, because you know how they always do like forever reboots and remakes been going on. It's like every time you turn, it's like another one. And so when this came out, I think it was, okay, we can make a movie with a good story with very small, capacity of actors if we sat down and actually did it. And I think because of the pandemic, it's like, we are creators. We still need to make something. We can't sit on our butts. What we're going to do? Well, hey, how about we do this? Because that's the only thing we can do is Zoom. Okay. So, there wasn't like a group of, having the Ouija board and throwing, bones on the ground and summoning spirits.
Right. Which we love, like, but,
Yeah. But it was like, well, you can't hide from technology.
No.
So
let's use it.
Also, of course. And that's where it's like a seance over Zoom. It sounds almost like if someone pitched that, I'm like, yeah, right. How are you going to do it?
How would you do it? Right.
But it's like, it's so effective even to this day. And some people try to duplicate it and you can't. It's I mean, you can use it as a stepping stone or blueprint of how to do something. But I think it's one of those right when pandemic, I think, have you seen Host? That's like, that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a lightning in a bottle situation too, because it caught the time so well. Also, another thing that I really love about the movie is how they didn't focus too much on the pandemic in the film.
No.
There's slight references to it, but they never really talk about it. It exists in the world, and you can tell if you see it. But I think that was smart because it lends itself to being a timeless movie.
Hmm.
And sure, I'm sure there's going to be a time when Zoom is not the device we use anymore. But like, I think that it works so well because you knew it took place in the pandemic, because I mean, we were all in that situation. We were all in tiny boxes. But you could watch it years from now and it can still be effective because it's not this thing that traps itself in a certain time period. Um,
And a sense of helplessness because no
oof.
one could help anybody.
No, oh my God.
There was nothing you could do.
They're all alone.
I mean,
That's another thing. They're all alone in their own
yeah, because
bedrooms.
you want to go leave, but then
Mhm.
it feels like that sense of if I leave, I can't see what happens.
Right.
So, but I mean, I think it was Gemma. Was it Gemma? Yeah, because Emma was the one with the pigtails. Gemma was
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah,
screw this. She's going over there
yeah.
to Haley's.
Oh yeah.
And then you could the reminder of it's still some kind of lockdown is the mask.
You're right.
Like
Just
she
puts
was
on the
like, I'm
mask
out
and
of there.
leaves.
So
Yeah.
obviously she lived closer than the other ones.
Hmm.
But it was that sense of when they flick off, and they go off, it's like, what's happening? And they come back.
Yeah.
And then there was a part where it said 10 minutes.
Oh man.
That's 10 minutes of how long the movie's remaining.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't get that till I saw it the third time.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing is that they were so smart in, look, in a horror movie, if you're going to do a jump scare or an effective scare or whatever, it's common that you build it around like a set piece or whatever. Like, okay, we're going to do a scare based off the baby monitor, and like, okay, what does a baby monitor do? Whatever. But because I think Zoom itself has so many effects, and also, I mean, just our computers in general, there was so many opportunities to build creative, original scares that we have not seen before, and they used all of them. They were so good at, like, I mean, the filters, and like, my favorite, and I talk about this to this day, I think it was so clever and so smart, was that the moving background that the one character has.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I remember I did that, I in the middle of the pandemic, I also made like a background of me walking in and doing it. So when I saw that in the movie, I was like, oh, that's funny. I did that too. But then they turn it on its head and suddenly they use it in such a really scary way that, like, oh my God, it's so creative. And I think they really like seize the opportunities there to like craft really good scares based
Also
off of what Zoom has to offer.
yeah, also sound, because I remember my phone doesn't do it now so much, but I used to put my phone, and before my phone rings, I would hear the static sound,
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then my phone would ring, and then when I watch it the third, it's like you always see something else.
Oh, always.
The third
I
time,
watched it again this morning and I was like, what?
yeah.
Yeah.
So every time there's a presence, you'll hear
Oh, yeah.
that static noise, and like
Mhm.
the face was floating. That one, the floating face, the
So good.
dangly legs when she was
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
attic. That
Come
got
on.
me.
Like, it's so
Oh,
good.
and the Polaroid. I love how
Oh,
they
yeah.
use the zoom, but they still use old school elements to scare the crap out of it. The
Exactly.
Polaroid, when she was taking those photos and you could see the guy like,
Oh my God.
I would have laughed. I would have took my
No,
chances
goodbye.
with the COVID.
With the pandemic, yeah. Goodbye. I'm out of here. I just remember Casey, my fiance, what we watched it. I was telling her, I was like, there's this new movie, whatever. They made it in the pandemic. It like just came out. We got to watch it. And the movie goes by so fast. It's a tight movie. But by the end of it, I literally, both of us were soaking wet in sweat and sitting at the edge of our couch, which, like, I'd like to think that we're both horror veterans at this point. Like, we consume mostly horror. We have seen it all. But this movie made me, like, I was so on the edge of my seat. and it happened so fast that by the time the credits, which was also very clever, the Zoom credits, we were both sitting there in silence, like looking at each other, like, what just happened? It happened so fast.
And
Like, it goes to hell real quick. Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like a very short
No.
movie, because like I said, it's like it's your POV the entire time. It does not deviate.
It feels like you go through it with them.
Yeah. And I mean, the acting, the girls were great. I mean, you needed that too, because we're in their face. The camera's like this the entire time, so we have to see the fear, the concern, the scared. I mean, we really did. And I mean, when I saw, I think it was Emma. Yeah, Emma with the pigtail. She was snotting under the blanket.
Oh, she got the snot under the blanket for so long too, and you're just like, oh God, she must be so hot in there, just sweating and crying. Well, that's the thing. I mean, look, Blair Witch Project was what it was because personally, I think because the acting was so believable, and it's so effective that way. And especially if you're going to do a found footage type movie where you want to play with the audience's reality and say, like, this is real. And obviously we know most of these are not, or they're not, they're movies, but it really, really takes it to a whole other level if the performances are believable, obviously. But with found footage, it's just a different story. And I think, that was another thing that we said after we watched the movie. We're like, they all must be friends. And it turns out they are. They're all, that's the other thing, is like, they're all friends. They all decided to make a movie, which is just, love that. But you can tell because the chemistry is there. The performances are so believable and so good that it just makes it that much more effective.
Yeah. I mean, even little details of their demeanor, of, you know, how they talk to each other, you know, especially, I think out of all of them, my favorite, I hope is Gemma. Gemma's the glasses. Where she, kind of her fault because she was playing around.
Yeah. Gemma.
And then I know. And you could tell, like you said, great chemistry, because it was like they were all mad at her.
Also, I think because we are so up close in their faces, you don't need a bunch of exposition telling you like their relationships or like what happened prior. You get it all from their demeanor, like you said. And it allows you to be like, okay, we're here with these friends. We know this dynamic. We get it. We understand just by the way that they're talking to each other, looking at each other, and by their facial movements. Let's go. Like, let's go on the ride. And I think that's what helps make it move along too, because we don't spend a bunch of time establishing who everyone's relationship is. And it just sort of like lets you join this friend group and be a part of it for, you know, the runtime.
Yeah. Even though you're watching this, you're kind of figuring out, well, how bad can it get? Like, what could happen to them? Man, the kills was not,
oh my God,
what you expect. I mean, what?
Not when you go in knowing that like they made this together for fun, basically. Like, you don't expect the level of technicality that they have too, in terms of like pulling off those special effects. It gets gruesome. It gets really rough.
There was one part I did laugh though. I kind of chuckled because it was like unexpected. Like, how could I guess the spirit has a sense of humor when I think it's Gemma got hit with the
oh my God, the wine bottle. Yeah.
It was like, damn, pow. She was like, ugh.
Damn. I'm like, been there. Hey.
Wait, been there?
I mean, we've all been clocked in the head with a wine bottle, right? No, I haven't been there. No, me either.
Okay. It's always the shifty eyes.
2020, it was a really blur of a year. I don't really remember. But no, I agree. It's well, that happens, and then you're like, it's like one of those like nervous laughters too, because like, now what? Like, okay, he clocked her out. She's down. Now what are you gonna do? I also don't know how they pulled that off either. Like, it's so. I'm gonna have to be all up in Jed's ear and be like, tell me how you did everything.
So, another frightening one was when Emma was in her room and her door opened and she threw the blanket and she
Yeah.
tried to get out.
Oof.
And it was like all this chaos.
Yeah.
And then you see, I guess, her laptop or whatever she was using
Mhm.
on the ground. And then she went smack right
Oh.
into the table. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That was hard. Like
And then all the other like friends have to sit there and watch it too.
That's it.
And
I know.
And you really do. You see their reaction. Your reaction is the same exact way because you're like,
well, all of them were gone at that time. Like you
oh
didn't
yeah,
see
you're right,
them
you're right.
until the only one that saw was Gemma, because she
Yeah.
was already at Haley's
Haley's.
house,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah.
looked, and it was like that's it. And then once they all had their demise, then you see their screens go out one
Yeah.
by one. I mean, that was wild. But okay, it got me when Gemma went to Haley and she went into the room, got her out in that doggone Polaroid, and she just kept taking photos.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And
You
then
know it's coming, but then it
and
goes on a little too long, right?
yeah. And then
Because
your POV goes past Haley. Like you don't even
Yeah.
see her anymore. And we're just looking and looking and looking.
Man, and you know it's coming too. You know it's coming, and it's still so effective.
Yeah. So do you have any favorite parts or something in here that stuck with you
Yeah,
throughout? Like
for
it
me,
just to this day?
yeah, I have talked about this guy, and I already talked about it, but the effect of having that moving background where the one character, she made that like false background of her like walking around in her bedroom, and it's played as like a really funny like haha, and like I said, I did that in the pandemic. I was like one of those people. I was like, look at my background. And you see her and the characters forget that she did that, so they think she's okay and they're trying to get her attention, and then all of a sudden her bloody face breaks through the filter, and it's hitting her face over and over and over again. It's so chaotic and so intense, and it like you almost forgot too that it was a background until like it happens. I just thought it was so effective and such a cool way to capture like a very specific, like that's a jump scare that can only be crafted in that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they like captured a really niche way to scare you in the middle of the pandemic during that time.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think like you could create again. I don't know, because it was so specific to the technology they were using and that time. And it was so effective for me, at least. I have been talking about that scare since I saw the movie the first time.
I think that character was either Caroline or Raydina.
Caroline.
Yeah, that was Caroline.
Yeah,
okay.
Caroline.
Raydina, I think, was the one underneath. The husband or boyfriend, where he just he just hit the ground.
That's another thing. You don't realize. You almost forget about him until suddenly, like, oh, where is he? He's on the ceiling.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Man, this movie was definitely effective. They all use their real names.
Yes.
So,
which is like just another layer of like the realism aspect. I mean, Blair Witch did this, but like I remember just watching and be like, they all must be friends in real life, and then finding out that they are, and that it was spawned from a short they made on Twitter, which I saw before the movie was ever even made. But I saw that short. It was like a 1 minute short film of them all on Zoom. The entire cast is there. They're all there. And basically, I guess Rob or I don't know, one of them, they crafted the attic scare in the short film. And I think it was that short film that got them to make Host, which is like just amazing. But yeah, I think it was all done so well. Wait, what about you? What's something that stuck with you from the movie?
Oh man, there's a lot.
You
I
know.
think I think that what really stuck with me is how personable the film was. Like it,
Mm,
you are, like I said this before, you're with them.
hmm.
You know, like there's no time. You see what they see, or
Yeah,
sometimes you see something they don't
that
see.
they don't see. Yeah. Oof.
And but the camera never lose focus on what we need to focus on. It never
Yeah.
shifts. It doesn't go from we see them on video to a camera that's in their house and we're seeing
Right.
their perspective walking in the room. No, it never changed. So we
Hmm.
always have that fear of what can happen and that
Yeah.
sense of hopelessness because there's nothing no one could do. They just
Yeah.
watch each other get killed off. I mean, but even the last two, we don't even know what happened to Emma or
I
Haley.
know.
We just see that thing just jump out, and that's the end of that.
Host 2? Host the sequel?
I hope not. It's
No,
one
no,
of those
no.
movies
You
that
can't.
don't even need it. I
You
think
don't need it.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I have to say thank you so much. This is so much fun.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you
Finally
for having me.
get to talk to you because
Oh my
twice
God.
busy. It was the wedding, and there was another time I
Yes.
saw you. Oh, at the
Uh,
Midsummer, right?
Midsummer Scream.
Oh yeah,
That was Monster Palooza. Saw
Monster
Monster Palooza.
Palooza. Yeah, we was
Yeah, yeah,
in passing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was like, oh my God, Ivotres. Um, but like I said, we always see each other at like the most like horror-filled situations, so we're both overwhelmed at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. I am always down to talk about horror movies, but also with you. I mean, you're like the horror fan, and you do it so well. So thank you
Oh,
for
thank you
having
so
me,
much.
letting me talk about Host because I could talk about Host forever.
Okay, before I let you go, is there any upcoming projects or film or something we need to know about, or you have
Hmm,
to stay hush hush? I get
there's
a
a
lot of
couple
that.
things. There's a couple things. I like I said, I do have the wholesome, not scary dog movie coming out on Netflix on January 13th. It's called Dog On, if that's your type of thing. And then speaking of making movies with friends, back before the pandemic, it was the New Year's, uh, 2019 going into 2020. So it was the last big hurrah before I knew the world was going to shut down. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, called me up and was like, "What are you doing for New Year's? Do you guys want to come to Utah and lock ourselves in a cabin and make a horror movie for fun?" And we did. We got snowed in Utah. We just made up this horror movie, and now it's coming out. It's coming out
Oh,
on a week after Doggone comes out, so in January. It's called
okay,
Snowfalls. Look out for that on streaming or VOD or something. I don't really know, but it is coming out. It is a horror
okay.
movie, and I was drunk through half of it. I didn't know it was going to actually come. We were
Well,
there celebrating New Year's at the same time. Come on,
well, you know,
but it was the most
I bet
fun.
you're great.
No, thanks. But it was the most fun, and I can recommend if you ever have the chance to make a horror movie with your friends, do it. It's the most fun experience that you'll ever have. It's so great. So yeah, so that and yeah, I guess those are the next two things coming out.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you so much.
thank you everyone for watching Shudderary. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment and find Johnny here, follow him, watch his movies that he's in. He is amazing. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Until next time, everyone. Bye.